to be able to love others, we have to receive love first. So all of this is not about doing all of these things in our own strength. Like, I'm going to try and forgive really hard with my own strength, because you'll run out of strength. This is about being loved unconditionally, receiving that love unconditionally, and then unconditionally loving others, which keeps our heart right towards them. And our relationship with God will be a reflection, or our relationship with God will reflect in how we then relate to other people, and our attitude towards them, as we're transformed, becomes the same attitude that God has towards us. So, you know, the golden rule, treat people the way you want them to treat you. I would actually change that to treat people the way God has treated you, because that is the perfect thing. I could want people to treat me in a certain way, which is totally selfish. And therefore my motive for treating them in a certain way would be totally selfish, which would not be a good attitude of heart. But of course, God's love towards me is not selfish. It's completely unconditional. And he wants to bless me. So then if I receive that blessing, then I am empowered to bless others in the same way that I've been treated by God. So I love because he first loved me, not because I try hard to love him, because that's just a work. So it's all about receiving grace, and then we then can release that to others. And it is a heart thing. Everything's about the condition of the heart. And God knows that the heart is so much more toxic than anything else. And, you know, talks about the heart being wicked above all things. Well, that doesn't mean our soul is wicked. It just means that actually, if we operate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, then our heart is going to operate out of independence, and therefore will be functioning really coming from a wrong view of both God and everything else. So it is receiving it, which then transforms our heart to be able to give it. You know, I can't forgive someone in my own strength, because I will run out of my own strength eventually if I'm doing it by force of will. But when I've received it and when I know it myself, then the desire to release that to others is there. You know, and I think Jesus talked about that in the parable of the unforgiving servant. You know what it's like. He basically said, look, you're in the torture chamber. If you don't forgive, it affects you, not the person you're not forgiving. You know, and it is like being tortured, because essentially the very nature of the cross and what Jesus has done and what God has done is love based in forgiveness. And if we don't forgive, then the enemy says, right, I'm gonna torture you, and you end up with bitterness and resentment and anger and oppression and depression, all because we refuse to forgive. But when you know you're forgiven, it is the inspiration and the power to be able to forgive others, which is so hard if you don't know you're forgiven. And when religion keeps you in that sense of guilt, shame, and condemnation, it's really hard then to have a loving attitude towards others, because we feel so badly about ourselves. And the religion will make you feel bad about yourself. That's what it's designed to do. So you keep coming back for another dose of religion because you need it, because you're not good enough yet. You know, rather than, well, no, you're already the righteousness of God in Christ. He made you righteous. If you just came into the full understanding of that, then you would operate in the way that you are. It's your identity, as you say. You know, people don't want you to know your identity. Then you don't, you know, particularly the religious people, because then you don't need them anymore. You're not required, you know, you don't require a dose of religion to give you your identity. You get your identity from God direct in relationship.